Okay, let's unpack this. I mean, the sheer complexity of today's global supply chains is, well, it's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
It really is. You've got this huge web of producers, shippers, distributors.
Yeah, all trying to navigate this patchwork of different international rules and regulations.
Exactly. And that environment, it's just ripe for problems. We see it all the time, right? Product recalls, counterfeit goods popping up.
Oh yeah, the counterfeit problem
Yeah.
and those, ethical sourcing questions that keep coming up.
It makes you wonder, like, surely there's a better way, a more trustworthy, more transparent way to handle all this complexity.
And that, I think, is where blockchain starts to enter the picture.
Mm-hmm. It's really fascinating stuff. The potential of blockchain, this sort of decentralized, unchangeable digital ledger, it could provide that trust foundation we need.
Right, in these super complex systems.
It's basically about creating a more secure, verifiable way to track goods, ensure accountability, across the whole network.
Exactly. And for anyone listening who's heard the term, but maybe isn't totally clear on how it fits here, think of it like a shared digital record book.
A very secure one.
A very secure one, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Every important step, like raw material leaving the source, a product clearing customs, gets recorded as a secure block.
Mm-hmm.
And then that block is time-stamped, linked permanently to the one before it, making this chain that you can't tamper with.
Which gives you that clear, traceable history for pretty much anything.
Precisely.
And that foundational security and traceability, well, it opens up some really powerful applications in supply chains. That's what we want to dig into today, right?
Yeah.
5 key areas.
Yep, let's get into it. So first up, product journey tracking. Really knowing end-to-end where something's been.
Complete visibility from start to finish.
And secure transaction recording. Having that solid, auditable history of every exchange.
Crucial for accountability.
Third, certification authentication. Like instantly verifying if those quality or origin papers are legit, no more guesswork.
Cuts down on fraud potential there.
Number 4 is smart contracts for automation. These are like digital deals that just run themselves when the conditions are right. For customs, payments, that kind of thing.
Self-executing, yeah. Streamlines a lot.
And finally, real-time data visibility. Everyone who needs to know sees the same live info at the same time. Better decisions, faster.
So yeah, those are the key areas. Let's explore why they're becoming so important.
Okay, so why is blockchain getting so much attention here? What are the core problems in traditional supply chains it's really tackling?
Well, it boils down to addressing some fundamental weaknesses.
Yeah.
The first one you mentioned earlier, that big one, lack of transparency.
Right.
Often, the different players, suppliers, manufacturers, logistics, they all operate in their own little bubbles, their own systems.
Silos, right. Information silos.
Exactly, silos. And that makes getting a complete picture, a sort of holistic view of a product's journey, incredibly difficult, almost impossible sometimes.
It sounds like trying to piece together a puzzle when everyone's holding on to their own pieces and not showing them.
That's a good way to put it. And this lack of a clear, shared view feeds directly into the next major issue: fraud and counterfeiting.
Because if you can't easily track and verify things,
It becomes much easier for fake stuff to slip into the system. And that's a huge battle, especially in, say, pharmaceuticals or luxury goods.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where authenticity is everything for safety, for brand value, the damage can be massive.
Devastating, yeah. And then there's just the plain inefficiency you often find.
The old paper trails?
Yeah, manual processes, paper documents that get lost or have errors, lots of time spent just manually checking things.
And as supply chains get bigger and more global,
Those inefficiencies just get magnified. They become really costly.
okay, and the last point you mentioned earlier,
Right, the increasing complexity of regulatory compliance. It's a maze out there.
different rules everywhere.
Exactly. Companies operating internationally have to deal with this constantly shifting landscape of regulations. Just keeping track, doing the paperwork, staying compliant, it takes a lot of resources. It's a heavy burden.
Okay, so those are the pain points. Transparency gaps, fraud, inefficiency, compliance headaches. Now, how does blockchain actually start to fix these? Let's start with transparency, that end-to-end visibility. How does it work?
Well, what's really powerful is that blockchain creates essentially a single shared version of the truth for everyone who's authorized to see it.
One source of truth.
Pretty much. Every movement, every transaction related to a product, from raw materials leaving the farm or mine, right through to final delivery, it gets securely recorded.
And everyone on the network can see it.
Everyone who's supposed to, yeah.
Yeah.
The suppliers, manufacturers, logistics folks, They all access the same data. It gives this unified, much clearer picture compared to those old fragmented systems.
And it's not just where something is, but also its condition, right? This is where real-time tracking comes in, often using IoT.
Precisely. That's a key integration. Imagine attaching smart sensors, GPS, temperature monitors, humidity sensors, RFID tags to the goods themselves. These sensors can constantly stream data directly onto the blockchain in real time.
So you know exactly where it is and if it's been kept correctly, like temperature for medicine.
Exactly. You can pinpoint location, but also verify, say, if those temperature-sensitive pharma products stayed within their required range the entire trip.
That's huge for quality control.
It's a game changer for cutting down on spoilage, loss, delays, especially for really valuable or sensitive stuff.
Okay, so the data's live, constantly updated. But what stops someone shady from, messing with that data later? That's the immutable records part, isn't it?
That's the core strength. Once a piece of information, a transaction, a sensor reading, is recorded as a block on the chain, it's basically set in stone.
Permanent.
Permanent and unalterable. The cryptography behind it, the way blocks are linked, it makes it virtually impossible to go back and secretly change or delete anything.
So everyone would know if someone tried.
Instantly apparent. And that immutability, that's what builds so much trust. Audits become way simpler too, because you have this reliable, tamper-proof history, like you said, a digital wax seal on everything.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this briefly before, but the collaborative visibility aspect.
Yeah.
How does that really change things from the old siloed way?
Well, traditionally, information gets locked up inside individual companies, right? Blockchain breaks down those walls. It gives simultaneous, real-time access to the same verified data to all the authorized players.
So the supplier, the manufacturer, the shipper, maybe even the regulator.
And potentially even the end consumer, yeah. They can all see the relevant bits as they happen. This gets rid of that information asymmetry we talked about.
Everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Which leads to way better coordination, more accountability for everyone involved, and ultimately faster, smarter decisions across the whole chain.
Okay, so the light gets shown into those previously dark corners. Let's pivot to regulatory compliance. This is often a big headache. How does blockchain help here?
What's really neat is how compliance can almost be built into the system. Think about built-in audit trails.
Because everything's recorded automatically.
Right. Every transaction, every activity on the blockchain is automatically logged in chronological order, time-stamped, and immutably stored. That is a comprehensive audit trail just by its nature.
So regulators must love that.
Well, it's a huge potential benefit for them. The data is right there. It's verifiable. It's much less prone to errors or, funny business. Audits could become so much more efficient, less paperwork, less risk of misreporting.
That sounds like a win-win.
Yeah.
And you mentioned smart contracts again. How do they automate the compliance side of things?
So smart contracts, these self-executing agreements on the blockchain, can be programmed to automatically trigger actions when certain conditions are met.
Okay.
In a supply chain, maybe that's automatically checking if a product has the right certifications before it moves to the next step, or releasing payment once delivery is confirmed.
Right.
For compliance, you could automate things like verifying licenses, triggering customs declarations, ensuring certain protocols are followed, all without someone having to manually check and sign off.
Takes the human element and potential error out of it.
Reduces admin costs, speeds things up, and builds trust because the rules are enforced automatically by the code itself.
It's like setting up the digital guardrails in advance. And I imagine having all this data structured and time-stamped on the chain makes regulatory reporting much less painful.
Oh, definitely. Instead of scrambling to pull data from 10 different systems and hoping it lines up.
Which sounds like a nightmare.
It often is. With blockchain, you can leverage that inherent structure and immutability to generate compliance reports way faster and more accurately.
Saves time, fewer mistakes.
Exactly. And it gives regulatory agencies quicker access to reliable data for their own checks and inspections. It just streamlines the whole process for everybody.
Okay, we've hit transparency and compliance hard. Let's zoom out a bit. What are the big overarching benefits of using blockchain in supply chain management?
Well, summing up some things we've touched on. Number one is definitely improved efficiency.
Less paper, faster processes.
Absolutely. Digitizing records, automating workflows with smart contracts. It cuts down massively on paperwork, speeds things up, and reduces those costly human errors you see in traditional chains.
Makes sense. And that theme of increased trust keeps coming back.
It's fundamental. Those immutable records create an unforgeable audit trail. that gives you solid proof of origin, authenticity, how something was handled.
Which builds confidence.
Builds huge confidence among everyone involved, from the very start of the chain right down to the person buying the product.
And in today's world, dealing with problems quickly is key. How does blockchain help reduce risk?
That real-time tracking and end-to-end traceability are crucial here. They let companies spot issues like delays, counterfeit sneaking in, maybe contamination much faster.
An early warning system.
Kind of, yeah. It allows for a quicker, more targeted response that minimizes the financial hit and, importantly, protects the company's reputation.
And finally, something that's really gaining traction: sustainability. How does blockchain help with certifying sustainability, or ESG?
This is a really interesting area. Blockchain provides a solid way for businesses to track and, crucially, verify data about their ESG practices.
Like what specifically?
Well, think about carbon emissions tracking, responsible use of resources, ensuring fair labor practices throughout the supply chain.
So you can prove it.
Exactly. It provides a transparent, tamper-proof record. This helps consumers, investors, regulators tell the difference between genuine sustainability efforts and just, greenwashing.
Right, separating the talk from the walk, so it's tracking the product and its impact. Now, blockchain's powerful on its own, but you mentioned integrations. Its impact gets bigger when you combine it with other tech, right? Like IoT, AI, the cloud.
Absolutely right. These technologies work really well together. Take blockchain and IoT. We talked about sensors.
Capturing temperature, location.
Right.
Yeah.
All that real-time environmental data gets securely logged onto the Immutable blockchain. This creates this detailed, trustworthy digital twin of the product's journey.
Which is vital for quality control, especially for sensitive goods.
Invaluable. The blockchain guarantees the data's accuracy and accountability. You can spot anomalies instantly, prove compliance with handling rules.
It's like a perfect, uneditable diary of the product's life. What about blockchain and AI? How do they team up?
Okay, so you have these huge, trustworthy data sets on the blockchain. AI is great at analyzing big data sets, right?
Finding patterns, insights.
Exactly. AI algorithms can chew through that blockchain data to optimize delivery routes, maybe predict demand shifts, or even flag potential supply chain weak spots before they break.
So moving from just having the data to actually using it predictably.
Precisely. It helps companies make smarter, data-driven decisions, anticipate problems, and build more resilient, responsive supply chains overall. Predictive maintenance, reducing downtime, that sort of thing.
Very powerful. And finally, where does cloud computing fit into this picture?
The cloud basically provides the backbone, the infrastructure needed to run these blockchain networks effectively, especially for global supply chains.
Scalability.
Scalability is key. Hosting blockchain solutions in the cloud means faster rollout, easier updates, and the ability to adjust resources as needed. Plus, it helps with that real-time collaboration and data access across different locations.
Makes it more practical, more accessible globally.
Right. It makes blockchain applications more feasible, cost-effective, and able to handle the sheer volume of transactions in global trade.
So the cloud is the engine room, in a way. Now, look, this sounds very promising, but it can't be all smooth sailing. What are the main potential challenges companies face when trying to adopt blockchain?
No, it's definitely not without hurdles. One of the biggest upfront barriers is often the cost.
The initial investment.
Yeah, significant upfront expenses. Hardware, software, training people, integrating it with the systems you already have. It can be pretty substantial.
Especially for smaller companies.
Particularly challenging for SMEs, yeah, with tighter budgets. Another big one right now is the lack of standardization.
Different blockchains don't always talk to each other easily.
Exactly. There isn't one single standard yet. So if your partners are using different blockchain systems, it can make collaboration tricky. Compatibility issues.
Okay. Any other major ones?
Well, there are still some scalability concerns with certain blockchain types. As networks get bigger and more transactions happen.
Things can slow down, get more expensive.
Potentially, yeah. Processing speeds might dip, transaction costs could rise, especially during really busy periods in global trade. These are things being actively worked on, but they're still factors.
Right, so cost, standardization, scalability, important things to weigh up. Given those challenges, what are some best practices for adoption? How should companies approach this?
Good question. A smart way to start is often with a pilot program.
Don't go all in immediately.
Right. Test it out first. Maybe pick one specific product line or one part of your supply chain. See how it performs, figure out the kinks, measure the ROI before you commit to a massive rollout.
Makes sense. Learn by doing on a smaller scale.
Exactly. Another crucial thing is to engage in partnerships from the very beginning.
Get everyone on board early.
Yes, blockchain works best as a network effect. You need your suppliers, your logistics providers, maybe even regulators involved and bought in early on for it to really succeed. Collaboration is key.
And compliance is always critical.
Absolutely. You have to confirm regulatory compliance. Make sure whatever blockchain solution you choose meets all the data privacy rules like GDPR and any other relevant laws in the regions you operate. Avoid those legal traps.
Good advice. Pilot, partner up, and check the legal boxes. It's interesting, too, how governments and regulatory bodies are starting to get involved, isn't it? They see the potential, too.
Definitely. We're seeing more and more interest and even active support, like the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA.
What are they doing?
They've been quite vocal about using blockchain for better drug traceability under the DSCSA Act. Basically, using it to fight counterfeit meds and make the pharma supply chain safer and more transparent. Protecting public health is the goal.
That's a big endorsement.
Yeah.
Any other examples?
Sure. In Europe, there's the European Union Blockchain Services Infrastructure, EBSI.
Okay.
It's a big EU project aiming to set up a secure cross-border platform for digital services, and supply chain logistics is a key part of that. They want to use blockchain to boost transparency, cut down fraud, and build trust in trade across member states for things like customs, verifying product origin, etc.
So governments are actively building frameworks for this. That's significant. And let's circle back quickly to ESG because it's so topical. How specifically does blockchain help with ESG compliance?
It provides that verifiable proof layer. For fair labor practices, you can create an auditable record showing compliance with standards.
Tracking working conditions.
Potentially, yes. For carbon footprints, you can track emissions or energy use tied to specific production batches or shipments, making environmental reporting much more granular and accurate.
Harder to fudge the number.
Exactly. For ethical sourcing, you can provide solid proof of where raw materials came from, ensuring they meet responsible sourcing standards. No more just taking someone's word for it.
And this helps stakeholders.
Hugely. It offers transparency for stakeholders, investors, regulators, consumers. They get access to verifiable ESG data to make informed decisions and hold companies accountable.
It's about verifiable proof for those claims. Okay, looking further out now, what might the future of blockchain and global trade look like? What big changes could be coming?
The potential is really huge. We could see widespread digitalization of bills of lading. Think secure, instant, trustworthy digital versions instead of paper. That alone would cut fraud and speed things up massively.
No more lost papers at the port.
Hopefully not. Then there's automating customs clearance. Imagine instantly sharing verified shipment data with customs authorities. Faster inspections, fewer border delays.
Streamlining trade flow.
Definitely. And verifying country of origin requirements becomes much easier with tamper-proof evidence on the blockchain, essential for trade agreements.
Reduces disputes.
Should do. At its core, it's all about enabling greater transparency and trust between everyone involved in trade. And this lays the groundwork for fully digital trade ecosystems, integrated, secure, global networks.
A real modernization of trade infrastructure. Now, is this just for the big multinational players, or does it offer something for SMEs, the smaller guys too?
That's a really important question. And yes, it absolutely does have potential for SMEs. It can help level the playing field.
How so?
Well, it can give them access to transparent, verified supplier networks, makes it easier to find trustworthy partners, reduces their risk of fraud.
Builds confidence for smaller players.
Exactly. It can also simplify compliance with international standards. Automated record keeping helps them meet requirements that might otherwise be too burdensome or expensive.
Lowers barriers to entry for global trade.
Potentially, yes. And maybe most excitingly, it could enable their participation in decentralized marketplaces. Opening up new global sales channels, improving their market access, could really boost their competitiveness.
So it's not just a tool for the giants, it could empower smaller businesses too.
Absolutely. That's a key part of the potential.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it feels pretty clear that blockchain isn't just hype anymore, is it? It's really shaping up as a revolutionary force in supply chain management.
I think so. It offers real, practical answers to those persistent challenges of transparency, traceability, and trust. That decentralized, immutable record keeping, the real-time tracking, the smart contract automation. It's a powerful combination.
And the value seems to cut across the board, doesn't it? From
Yeah.
the initial producer right through to the end consumer,
Yeah.
everyone benefits from having reliable, verifiable data.
Manufacturers, logistics providers, regulators, consumers, there's something in it for pretty much everyone involved when it's implemented well.
Now, we did talk about the hurdles, integration costs, scalability issues, the need for common standards. Those are real.
They definitely are challenges that need ongoing work and consideration.
But it does seem like the long-term upsides, cutting risk, making compliance easier, building that fundamental trust, probably outweigh those initial difficulties for many.
Looking at the bigger picture, yeah, it's about building supply chains that are more resilient, more efficient, more trustworthy, but equipped for the complex world we operate in now.
Which is increasingly interconnected and absolutely driven by data.
Exactly.
So maybe the question for you, listening, isn't so much if blockchain is going to disrupt supply chains anymore. Perhaps it's more about how you can start thinking about, understanding, and maybe even preparing to leverage this shift for whatever you're working on. How do you stay competitive and informed as this technology continues to roll out?
That's definitely the question to ponder now. It's moving fast.
Powerful stuff.
Thank you, viewers, for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your colleagues. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking that subscribe button below so you never miss out on valuable insights. I'm Brian Edmonds, signing off. See you in the next one.